Cameraman Grades, cameramangrades.com. Professional consultations for camera operators, video coordinators, and sports video professionals at all levels. Find us at cameramangrades.com or contact us directly at cameramangrades@gmail.com for your own sports video consultation. Currently looking for the best camera operator of the 2025 NFL season. These are the best of the best, and we're putting it to the test. Today we are looking at the Atlanta Falcons versus the Miami Dolphins, Week 8 of the 2025 football season. Let's get right into it. I like the pan over. Looks good. Looks really good. Wow. Guy went soaring. Very good. Love it. Okay. Good setup to start. It's got some space along the edge. Alright. A little bit of space behind the quarterback. Once the back vacates that side, you can come over. See top to bottom. And not really pressing top to bottom either. So, yeah, you can tighten this up a bit, but it still looks good. Awesome. That's good evaluation right there. Okay, nice tight setup here within 5 yards on both sides. They're zooming out without having a good reason for it. Expecting that there would be a pass on that. But on a run, they didn't need to. Didn't need to zoom out on that one. Okay, so you got some space this time around, but still pretty tight top to bottom. Looks really good. Fourth and 17. I got a punt on that one. There's not a play in the book for 4th and 17. Or maybe there is. Alright, this looks fantastic. They're doing a great job of getting all of this. There's people hand fighting up at the top. I saw all kinds of good stuff in there. Okay, it's right a little wider than 5 yards within that 10-yard span on both sides. Looks good. Okay, just take a look here. See if we could tighten this up at all. Alright. And just a little bit. Okay. About 85% of the screen. But the question is, what do you do with that once you get to that point? Once the players start running everywhere, are you using that extra space, or are you zooming out even farther? Right? Really wasn't bad. There was a slight zoom out, but not too bad. Alright. A lot of space behind the quarterback, an extra 7-8 yards there. Okay. Defense is switching up a bit. Alright, so yeah, getting out a little wider here. For sure. You do got a player down here at the bottom. Okay, so they're keeping him in. Well, that's about everybody there. So yeah, still about 85%. Which isn't bad. That works. All right, 4th and 5. They are punting. Looks good. Seeing a lot of action behind the play, a lot of things happening up here. A good amount of detail and a good amount of players in the shot. That looks really good. Okay. So in this play here, the motion's going towards the top of the screen, and nobody fills this bottom edge of the screen. The receiver on this side goes inside, and the back, the back might come out into the flat, but he doesn't. So coming inside. The only person going to the edge is this player here, and they get cut off, right? To leave a bunch of extra space at the bottom and cut off the one receiver that's actually going to get the pass. Would make sense to just come up to see him, which they do eventually, but I'd want to keep him in the shot as much as possible. All right. Got a first down out of it. Moving the chains within 5 yards. Nice tight setup. Run recognition coming in right immediately. Nice job. All right. Okay, so out a little wider here. Let's just take a look. This is a lot of space behind the quarterback. A lot of space. If we were to put it into the 2/3, yeah, there's almost an entire third of space on the left-hand side. That's completely empty. If you're going to have that space, just shift over and put it behind the defense, because that's where the play is going to go. And you can even leave a buffer. You can leave, like I said, within 5 yards is still excellent work. Within 10 yards is still, pretty decent. But, at this point we're at 12, 13, 11, you're really kind of already starting at a disadvantage if you're out that wide. And a lot of times, if you're starting out wide, then you're inverted, so your entire process is inverted. You have to zoom in to tighten things up, just to stay tight with the team, as opposed to starting tight and then zooming out with them as they start to push the edges. Yep, and it's a run, so everything's going to condense down. Not bad. Looks good. Okay, tight within 5 yards on both sides. Motion coming to the bottom of the screen. Everything adjusts around. Okay, awesome. This looks good. All right. So the formation changes right before the snap, which changes your setup a little bit, but everybody's still in about roughly the same position, and they don't really press all the way down to the edge of the screen, so you don't have to make much of an adjustment at all. This quarterback does a play fake and then drops back, right? So now he's filling that edge within 2 yards here, or within 4 yards here. So looking really good. Still here is still really, really good. Now this is the point where the zoom kind of kicks in, and now we're zooming out a considerable amount more than you really need to. All right. About 80%. Okay, so not bad, but that's another 10 yards to this side here. There's a lot of extra space across the top and more space behind the quarterback. So you got 2 referees, the crowd, and then an extra 10 yards, and then another referee. So Yeah, I'd really want to tighten that up a little bit from where it's at. Okay. That works. And about 8 yards behind the quarterback to start. Whew. Another 8 yards behind the safety. Top to bottom, could tighten up a little bit, not too much. All right, but now we're zooming out on a run play, so it's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse as these players all condense in. Really, he's completely out of the play. There's nobody over here for him to even engage. This guy might engage this guy, but he'd have to run really fast to get to him. These are the guys I'm looking at. Quarterback's out. So if you're only really focusing on them, it gets really tight at that point. Within less than 50%. Okay. So it might seem counterintuitive, but the players, the teams that are staying really tight to start, like this, right? Really tight to start, and then just try to keep these guys along the edge and see if anything changes where this guy leaves and somebody else comes in and hits that edge. Let's see if that happens right here. Okay, quarterback takes that space. Because it's a run, everybody's condensing down, so it's going to continue to condense down. So you want to recognize that as soon as possible and stop your zoom as soon as possible, because everything's going to start getting much, much smaller on the screen, like this. Okay. Again, still less than 50% of your screen is actual football. We want less grass, more football. Okay. Within 5 yards on both sides and allowing it to play out. That looks good. Okay, so this is the difference. Instead of zooming out, right, just stay with it. Stay right there. Yeah. Figures out you might need to move left or right to keep up with the play. If it is going to break loose, it's breaking loose left to right. It seems like kind of caught the filmer off guard there for a second. It's kind of a knee-jerk response as they see the ball get handed off. Right there, right? If they were anticipating that a little bit more, you can just kind of make it a nice, smooth pan across. Okay. Tight to start, and then there you go. Recognizing the run away from you. So this is, the opposite of what we saw the last time. It was a toss to the far side. Yep. Okay, so here you can see there's space to both sides, but if you look top to bottom, they're really pressing the edges. This is 5 yard out, 5 yard out, and it all goes to the edges of the screen top to bottom. So they stay with them on both sides really, really well. That's excellent. Third and 3. Solid. Looks good. Recognizing that run on that really well. Okay, now we're in a tight set. Changes everything, right? You can get a whole lot tighter within 5 yards, and everything's inside. They can just stay right where they're at. Looks really, really good. I like that play a lot. Okay. All right. Yep. Yep. Looks good. Able to see everything I need to on there. I can still see numbers on all these jerseys, and that's great for stats, for making sure, we've got the right personnel on the field at all times. Special teams looks good. Okay, on the kickoff, dropping out the kicker, zooming out a little bit. Looks good. It was a short kick, so it kind of changed everything. All right. Decent setup to start. Not bad. Staying out wide and keeping up with people, that's good. Looks good. That one was pressing top to bottom. So it makes sense that they zoomed out as much as they did there. Okay, got a lot of space behind the running back and not a lot of space behind the safety. Just see here, you got 2 yards, 3 yards behind the safety, and 7 behind the running back. Right? I'm guessing it's going towards the safety. Safety's backing up, and we're zooming out. So when you got that much space behind the running back, just move it over. You can move all this over without zooming out at all, and you're going to keep up with the safety. Instead, they kept the extra space behind the running back and then zoomed out, which creates this situation all over again. Right? When you first watch it, you might not recognize how much extra space there is. But there it is. 60%. 60% of your actual screen is football. Okay, we're not counting the quarterback at this point. If you're going to keep him, okay, let's say you are going to keep all 22 guys in the shot, right? I wouldn't recommend it. A lot of people say you need to keep the all 22 players in the shot at all times. That will make for some very, very wide, terrible footage at a majority of the time. And there's times when it does not make sense to keep a player in the shot. Kickers after they kick the ball, quarterbacks after they hand it off, they're really not allowed to be engaged at that point by rule, and so they kind of stay off to the side and let the play develop on its own after that. But yeah, you can definitely tighten that up and get it much tighter. Okay, starting out wide and zooming out from there. Full blimp mode here. Okay, just decided that we're just going to zoom out. Whatever happens on the field, it's somewhere on the camera. It's there somewhere, right? I'll show you where it's at. all right here. Okay. This is a referee. This is a referee. So we're not going to include them. You know, the first time I talked with an NFL video coordinator, I said, hey, I got a question for you. You know, are you required to keep the referees in the shot? And he said, no, we want to drop them out of the shots as much as possible. But I saw it so often, I was starting to wonder if it was a requirement and other people weren't doing it correctly. But no, you want to get tighter than that. This is 70 to 75% of the screen, right? 70 to 75% of any grade is going to be decent, like C level, right? At times it's pressing, you know, a D at that point. And below 70, you know, 65, 60%, you're talking about F range. But there's room for A+ work in the NFL. There are teams that are doing it, and there's room to improve across the board with anyone filming football. Can always improve, myself included. But it just kind of goes to show you, even at the very best of football, there's still room for improvement. All right, this looks good. Looks decent, right? That's the same box. Still at 70 to 75%. Okay, so at least they stopped the bleeding and allow it to play out, and which it does, and then they can zoom back in, right? But there's room to make that much tighter in there. Okay, switching quarters here, so going the other direction, much tighter formation, and they get up nice and tight with it. Okay, 5 yards here, right at 5 yards there. Formation changes with the motion. No reason to make any adjustments. Okay, we're beyond 5 yards here, beyond 5 yards here. Still decent. That works. All right. 5 yards both direction. It's a run. Very slight zoom out. Nothing too major. They just wanted to be cautious, and then once they saw that it was a run, stopped and came back in. So that works. Okay, we're past 5 yards on the back side of the safety. See if there's any way to tighten that up. Yeah, for sure. You can tighten this up. Okay, they're less than 90%. They're about 85%. So you got 15% that you can improve on. You can get it tighter. And like I said, sometimes it is counterintuitive, but staying tighter, keeps you from making choices there towards the end where you're zooming out for no reason. There was no reason to zoom out at the end. All it did, should be going zooming in, right? If you're out wide to start, it's going to invert everything that you're doing. Instead of zooming out when you're should be zooming in, you can just keep everybody right along the edges of the shot and make sure that nobody crosses over that boundary. And then that becomes the challenge. That becomes the game of it for a filmer, is to make sure that they're keeping everybody in the shot. This one, 60%. Fourth and 2. All right, they're going to kick the field goal. Get some points on the board. Alright. So, zero reason to want to zoom out here. Right. Just set it up and leave it alone. Get a nice tight shot and don't make any adjustments. Allow the coaches and the players to see exactly what happened on the field without interfering. Right. Okay, drop the kicker immediately, zoom in as everybody condenses on the ball. Kicker does get back in the shot, lightly jogging behind the play. That works. Alright, 1st and 10. Nice. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Alright, let's just go kind of point by point. Within 10 yards here, within 5 yards here. Top to bottom can tighten up a little bit. Not bad. What are we going to do with it? Okay. Staying consistent, still in the same proportions here. Staying consistent, keeping that margin. Still consistent. Okay. And then once the ball's away to the receiver, zooming in to get a shot of it. That's not bad. It's a little wider than I would like, but that's a good evaluation tool for coaches and players. Okay. You can definitely enhance it by staying tighter because the wider you get, the smaller the players get, the less detail you're going to see. Right. Excellent, excellent, excellent. This is good. Awesome. Let's see this. Okay. So within 10 yards there, within 5 yards on the defensive side. But what I like is how well they use that extra space once the play started. And then here, it's getting even tighter. Okay, now this is what I like, right? Instead of getting wider and farther out, they're staying tight and getting tighter. This is within 5 yards, this is within 5 yards, and we're deep into this play at this point. Now once the ball's away, you got to expect this safety is going to change direction. He's no longer dropping back with coverage, he's running up to make the tackle. Right, which is exactly what happens. And so then they start to zoom back in. Quarterback's out of the play. These are referees. These guys are not doing a whole lot. You can really kind of focus in. I'd be focusing right about here, at this point. And this safety's coming to get involved in the play, right? If the ball carrier continues to get there, this safety is going to make a play on it. Keep him in the shot. Keep these guys in the shot, but probably have about 18, 19 guys in the shot towards the end there. Really liked it though. Okay. Tight setup to start. Pitch outside. Okay, we're gaining a lot of space here. Gaining a lot of space here. Pitch to the far side. It's gonna, zoom in like that towards the end. Okay. Okay, so this setup, I don't know, there's a lot of space, Sometimes I can just see it better if I put it in the box and know for sure. Yep, really can't do much because of the top to bottom, right? Zoom in a little bit, that's about it. Got about 15% extra space there. But by having that extra space and then zooming out from there, it creates a whole different dynamic. Getting into that range. Okay. Back down to 70 to 75%. All right. Nice. Excellent job. Zooming out, putting that return receiver on the far end, right on the edge, looked really good. Okay, this is a nice tight set. Run coming this direction. Looks good. So you can see the difference in how, how the play changes for the filmer. A run toss to the far side is going to play out differently than a run to your side, to the bottom of the edge of the screen. It's coming towards you, so things are actually getting bigger with the perspective of the play. All right, here we go. Punting. I've been really impressed with special teams for the Falcons filmer. Yep. Solid. Looks really good. Okay. All right. So to start, I got to set up, I kind of zoom out just a little bit, give it a little extra buffer, and zoom out again. They're really worried about long passes, but here in this framing, $70 to 75%. So just that extra space on both sides is really just gaining a lot of extra room that isn't really necessary. Right? And then zooming out from there as well. Still right about that same amount of space. Okay. That works. Okay. All right. Not sure what the reason to zoom out would be here. Right there. Zooming out. Like, no. There's... everybody's right here. Right? Everybody's there. I don't... even at the setup, it's 70%, right? A lot of extra space there. And so, it just kind of makes the football smaller, makes it less. Okay. And zooming out. If you're starting out wide and zooming out, there's a better way. Starting in tight, keeping guys tight to the edges of the shot, and then zooming out to keep them along the edges of the shot, releasing along with them as they start running down the field. All right, special teams. Yep, zooming out again. That's the point where you just kind of like leave it. Special teams on a extra point like that is, or field goal is pretty easy to just get an easy win for you as a filmer. You set it up and kind of leave it. 99% of the time, they're just going to kick it, right? And it's going to go through and nothing to it. The other 1% of the time is chaos, right? So, blocked kicks, the play at St. Francis where they block the kick and then, Andy Papagiannis picks it up and, dives for the end zone and wins the game with 3 seconds to go against St. Ambrose, right? Stuff like that is, you got to be ready for it, which I was, when it happened. But, the rest of the time it was just setting up a boring shot and letting it happen. That works. Okay, well, keeping a lot of room on this backside for no reason whatsoever. Okay. There you go. Okay. Finally, we get to the point where it makes sense, right? Now we're into, 2/3 to the defense. The offense is on 1/3, and the defense is in 2/3 of the space, right? Here's the 1/3 offense along this edge here, and then the defense has 2/3 of the frame. But when you get here, this is the ball pretty much in the center of the screen, and then it's split 50-50, where the offense has, you take this half of the frame, and the defense takes this half of the frame, and then that just leaves a bunch of extra space. But 2/3 to the defense is still a really good guideline to follow in almost every scenario. There might be a time where you have to adjust that, but this is a pretty good rough estimate of where you should be framing the ball. Should be, instead of putting the ball at the center of the screen, move it over here to this 2/3 line. Eventually they get there, and it doesn't happen until right here, right? You got 5 yards here, 5 yards here, everybody in the shot. That looks good. Okay, punting. All right, there it is. Awesome. Okay, so this is one of the longer hang time punts that I've seen of this game. Kicking seems to be shallow from what I've seen in both kickoffs and punts so far. So, but if you take a look, keeps the punter in the shot for a second and then drops him, and then everybody else is in the shot here. There's 20 guys. There's the punters off the screen and the returners off the screen. Here's 20 guys on the screen right now, and these are the guys with all the action until we get to here, and there's the returner. Okay, and now once he finds him, he does not go out any further than that. Yep, and then zooms in as everybody condenses on that one point, which is the ball carrier. Awesome. Great job. All right. It's decent. Looks good. It's a quick play. There's some fast athletes on the field here. Okay. If they start running as fast as they can, it is a challenge for a filmer to keep up with them across 40, 50, 60 yards, go routes. But it is the task. It is the job of the filmer to keep up with it. And they're doing that. And they're doing a fairly decent job at it. Right? There's some areas where they can, tighten up. And that just makes the film that much better. Right? But on the whole, they're doing a lot of things really well here. Okay. I say that. Okay. This setup is already probably about 75%. Closer to 70%. Okay. So we're starting in the C range and then just kind of leaving it. All right. But, could have tightened it up from the start, and that would have made a huge difference. As a run, if you're tight to start and they start running, you don't have to zoom out, right? So by default, you're just going to have a nice tight shot for the entire play. Don't really have to do anything. Like right there. Looks good. Okay. So within 10 yards on both sides. There's room to tighten it up top to bottom. Oh, faking it this way, and we're going to throw it that way. Okay. Does anybody really press the edges? Not really. I mean, it's good to zoom out to make sure you're not dropping guys, but you really have to watch to see what's going on the field to make sure that you're not continuing to zoom out well after the ball's away and people start running to that ball carrier now. Alright. Alright, this guy, not doing anything. These guys are kind of out of the play. Definitely this guy. These are refs. These are refs. So I'm putting it, kind of more in this range. And if you're doing that, you're at 60%. Okay. Nice. Yes. Awesome. Love it. Looking good, Falcons. Within 5 yards. It's a good start. Yes. No knee-jerk reactions. Excellent. Excellent. Keeping that tight ratio along the edges, keeping your margin. If you're going to have, space along the edges, how are you going to use it? Are you going to allow people to fill that frame? That one was looking wide to start. It was a no play, so Doesn't really count for anything in the grand scheme of things. But hoping that they recognize that it was pretty wide last time and can tighten it up for the next play. Yes, awesome. Okay, so how do you use that margin? Do you let people fill in that frame and go to the edges? Here's a guy within 5 yards of the edge. This guy is heading towards the 5 yard, 5 yards from the edge. And then now the ball's away and it's down into this range where we can start to zoom back in. There it is. Awesome. Love it. Okay. Yep. All right. Top to bottom, pressing the edges. Here and here. Awesome. And now look at that. Everything falls into place, perfectly. Everybody's here. You got a lot of space back here, and this guy's almost going to run to the edge of if he's running to the back corner of the end zone, he's going to run out of your shot while keeping extra space behind the quarterback. Doesn't make any sense. Yep, and he did, right? Interested to see, more of that and less of the space behind the quarterback. But all in all, that was a really good, play from beginning to end. Yep. Looks good. Okay. Kicking. You can tighten that up. Nothing's happening behind that kicker. Not a chance that anything is going to take place in this range, right? You can tighten all this up right in about here. And then I like to put the bottom of the frame right about here because you get to see a little bit more of the arc of the kick, and that can give you a little bit of an indication as to at least, what kind of height they got out of it. Yep. Special teams panning over. Perfect. This is what I like to see. About half of the filmers in the NFL are doing that, where they're dropping the kicker. It's 45 yards from the kicker to the back of the front line, and it's 45 yards from the front of the front line to the returner or to the end zone. So it's almost perfect to just, as soon as the ball is kicked, to just pan over and see that returner catch the ball and then start running forward, right? Anybody who's making an effort to keep the kicker in the shot gets worse, and the kicker doesn't typically do much. If they are doing something, they'll get in that shot. They're going to be running full force down the field to get into the play, and they're going to end up in that shot. And you'll see them, very, very quickly re-engage the play. But 99% of the kickers that I've seen, they kick the ball and then they just stand there and they just watch to make sure that everybody else does what they need to, and they'll try to make an effort at a tackle if it gets to them somewhere along the line, which again hardly ever happens, right? If I'm going to make a decision on what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do it based on the 99% of the time that happens, not the 1% off chance that something could happen, and it does sometimes. In those instances, I'd rather just adjust to the chaos of the situation than to adjust everything else that I'm doing for the other 99% of the time. All right. Okay. Tight setup within 5 yards. Run recognition. Excellent. That looks good. Okay, a lot of space behind the quarterback and the running back. There's no amount of drop back that the quarterback's going to fill that space. So set it up to the defense. If you're going to have extra space, put it on the defensive side, and then you don't have to adjust anything. You don't have to move the camera side to side. You don't have to do anything with it. All right, punt is away. Finding the punter, yes. Finding the returner, so now I know exactly that punt went to exactly the 14-yard line. That's really good information. And then you can actually put a timer on it from the moment that the punt leaves the punter's foot to when the returner catches it, and that's good for punt statistics as well. Okay, this looks really good. Okay. Okay. Zoom out there. Didn't really add much. Wasn't anything that was going to happen from that would need to zoom out for. A lot of space. This is the back of the end zone behind the quarterback. That's the back of the end zone. Okay. Let's put it in the box. %. Okay, with all this extra space around the edges. Okay. Punts away. Coming over to find the returner. They do. Okay. So, this is a very challenging situation for any filmer. Okay. This was one of the most challenging things because you can't film the ball, right? The ball's 50 feet in the air. You can't, film. You can't just zoom over and find the returner because there's still a lot of action back behind the play. So you have to find the returner off screen. You don't know exactly where he's at until he pops up on your screen, unless you're taking your eyes off the screen to look past the screen to find the returner and then look back to the screen to see if he's in the shot yet, as you're guessing at what you were filming that entire time that you were not looking at your camera screen. So a lot of times what happens is you zoom out a little farther, you pan over a little farther, and you might think, oh, I've got the returner, he's right here. No, that's the referee, right? But I'm more interested in making sure that I see that return spot, because once that returner catches the ball at that's my punt statistics right here. Again, right at the 34-yard line. So I can see that exactly. And so I'd rather see that than miss it, right? Because the punter's going to want to see that. I'd rather see an extra, 10 yards behind the returner, and making sure that I see that shot. But if you can do it where you don't see anything behind the returner, that's usually the best option. But it's definitely not something I'm going to grade against because you film behind the returner when you have no idea where that person is at. Okay, awesome. Love it. All right. So you got a lot of space behind the running back. They are tightening it up and they are zooming out and framing up. Then the very first motion is right to left, and not a lot of zooming out because they already had margin, and that right to left motion puts everybody into the right framing for this shot. Okay, you can definitely tighten this up, but at least they're doing all the motion right with the camera. That's going to make sense for what's happening on the field. Okay, you can definitely tighten that up, but you're about 80%. Okay, still decent. Looking really good at this point, right? And then, you know, zooming out wide to make sure that you see all this, everything that happens, and then zooming in, you know, once the ball gets to a certain point. And there was a flag on that, so looks like they're gonna get a little extra space. Sure did. Got some extra yards. Okay. Within 10 yards, front to back. Quick pass out. Okay, once the ball's out of the quarterback's hands, okay, I'd say they might be looking for a, you know, if it was a backwards pass and then a forwards pass, you know, a pitch pass of sorts. If you were expecting that, you might continue to zoom out with the return, the receivers, but that's not happening here. It was a forward pass to start, and then everybody's condensing on the ball, so everything's going to get, you know, really, really tight on the field, and there's a lot of room to come in from there. So we're already at 80%, but I would say this guy, you know, isn't going to be in the play from this point forward. Probably not him either. If he is, he's going to, you know, be in the play once he gets into this area, right? So this is where the framing, you know, makes sense, or even right here. Okay, and that framing, you know, puts us more at 65%. Zooming in, just a lot of extra space. Less grass, more football. All right. Oh, ball's going the other way. That works. I saw what I need to on that. Okay. Within 5 yards behind, 5 yards behind the running back, 5 yards from the safety. Okay, safety fell into that space pretty well. They let it happen. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Okay, this safety's going to drop back and get right into this range. That's perfect range here. Okay. The defenders were looping around, defensive ends coming here. All right, now he's with the deepest man, right? And then we've got, you know, plus 5 yards here, but still decently tight. And then immediately recognizing that the ball's away, and then stop the zoom out and come back in. Looks really good. Awesome. I like it. All right. Yes. Get in there. Get in there. All right. All right. Decent. Looks good. Okay. Yup. All right. I like it. Okay. In some ways, I feel like this Falcons filmer has really caught a groove here. See if they can really start to add to it. Flag coming in. Okay. Let's back it up to the start here. So there's a receiver here, and then the quarterback. I'm imagining the receiver is going to run a route of some sort or block. He's going to come here or he's going to come over here and try to cut the guy off. That's my guess, which puts the quarterback just the only lonely person here. I mean, he's not completely alone. Here's a referee, right? If you want to see what the ref's doing, I don't. No offense to the referees, but I like football. Okay, look at that. I was wrong. This receiver did not run a route. Very rare instance where the receiver just turns and says, throw me the ball, right? It happens, and when it does, you just got to be ready for it. But this is a 1% situation, right? 99% of the time they're running routes down the field. And, you know, he does nothing in this play. But ball's immediately going the other direction. Up here, screen to the top side of the frame, and then these come in and tighten it up and then drop out. Guess who? Quarterback and the receiver who just stood there, right? So there you go. And so now we're down to a 20, all 20, right? Instead of all 22. That makes sense. All right. Okay. This was out wider to start, but there was no reason to zoom out, so they did nothing on that play, and I love it. If you can set it up correctly to start and you don't have to make any adjustments, that is the ideal situation. The ideal situation happens very little in football for anyone involved, right? So, you know, you have to adjust. This is the best play I've seen. Holy smokes. Okay. All right. So, yeah, what I've been saying all game, right? And like the whole time I've been doing this is why keep all this extra space behind the running back? Cut it out. Well, cut it in. Zoom in. Tighten it up. That's exactly what they're doing. Oh. And then they get to here, and this is within 5 yards on both sides. This is a tight framing, right? And now what happens? Zooming out, you can see the plays coming a mile away. You know, we've got 5 yards here. We've got less than 5 yards here. All right, and now we're in some tight framing right here. Right, they saw it coming, and I don't know if it was a play that they saw in, you know, scouting, or it was just kind of natural tendency that this is what you would expect to have happen here, so they just ran with it. But you can see they're making all the right moves here to make that perfect framing. Nice. Love it. Looks good. More of that, okay? If all the plays are like that in Atlanta, that's some good looking film. Can we keep it going? Zooming out on a run play. Okay. Not needed. You can just leave it. And then zoom in just a little bit at the end. Okay, this is nice and tight. I formation. Run play. Again, zooming out doesn't help. Okay, zoom out with the first couple steps from the safety, and then as soon as you recognize the run, you need to give it up because the safety is going to recognize it next. Right? He's going to see it as well. Yes, yes. Okay. What is happening here? 5 yards behind the running back. falls into pretty close to 5 yards there. Once the ball's away, okay, this is 22 guys in the shot, framed up fairly decently. Still 22 guys in the shot. Not bad. Okay, at this point, these guys kind of checked out. Just kind of pointing to the sky. This is where the action's at. So you can ditch those players at the behind the play and then zoom in on the anybody that's going to make a play for the ball before he gets to the end zone. Okay, extra point. Nice. Okay, this is what I've been calling for all game. Nice tight setup. No motion, no movement, no camera adjusting until afterwards you go see the referee. Calls it says it's good. The referee says it's good, I say it's good. Awesome. Pans over, 45 yards. And there it is. Hey, the kicker. Kicker comes in and gets in the shot. It's awesome. Okay. Decent. Ooh. Okay. This is kind of interesting. Why? Because this is a swing route out to way to the top of the screen. Right? I like that you keep him in there. You definitely want to see if they're throwing that way, but they're not. So at some point, he's just running out there all by himself. So if we were to drop him at this point, say, okay, this is still good framing, right? And now the ball's away. And as we get to this point, we're out pretty wide. So when I say pretty wide, I'm saying like 60%, 65%, right? If you can recognize it sooner, right? Looking here, you can keep these guys tighter on the edge, keep these guys tighter on the edge. If we were to frame it up here in the box, okay, about 85%. So 85%, if you can keep it tight there, right, and recognize that you don't have to continue zooming out from there, right? These routes are starting to condense in. This receiver's still running towards the sidelines, but you can stay tight, to right here and start to tighten, this up, or just not get any wider, and that will make the difference there and there and there. So once you get to here, it's kind of too late. You can come back in at that point, but okay. Interesting. Referees. Okay. So they did recognize that they were out pretty far. They got referees. They got 10 yards plus. They're already at 10 yards. They do zoom in just a little bit before the snap, and then they move right to left. But because they were out wide to start, and then now they have to zoom in and then zoom back out, now they're off, right? It's just, like I said, it inverts the process. Where now we've got another 9 yards behind the quarterback that's not going to get used ever, and then another 9 yards behind this. So you're adding an extra 20 yards, 18 to 20 yards to your shot. that you can avoid. Nine yards behind the quarterback, and then moving over top to bottom. They were still pressing the edges, so you really couldn't tighten it up too much more than that. Okay, pause. 2/3. That works. Okay. Yes. Okay. Nice. Boom. Bam. Yes. Bam. Yes. Bam. Okay. Drop the quarterback, and then to gain a bunch of extra space, behind the safety, if you're going to drop the quarterback, tighten it up. Go in tighter. Ball's away, so you can, after the ball's thrown, you can drop the quarterback, but, what's this dude doing with the quarterback? Hey, this guy's grabbing my quarterback, right? Hey, he's not allowed to do that. Well, I don't really know. Maybe he's doing something nice for him and not being mean, but I can't really see, because I see an extra 10 yards behind the safety of nothing, right? If I'm gonna show anything, I'd rather see the what happened with my quarterback as opposed to the 10 yards of nothing behind the safety. If I'm going to say that, what happened with the quarterback isn't worth seeing, I'm definitely saying that what happened with behind the safety isn't worth seeing. 4th and 4. Going for it. Oh. Okay. Okay. 9 yards. 9 yards. Okay, at least they don't zoom out from there. Well, they do a little bit. Still not sure why. Okay, right there. So they're keeping space up here at the top in case these guys are heading that direction, which makes sense. But the ball's coming this way, so they come back down. And that makes sense too. It works. It's a good evaluation tool. It could be better. This is better. 5 yards. No play. They had it. It was so good. That was the one, right? That was the perfect setup. It was going to work out just perfectly. But it was no play, so it doesn't count, right? We got to get it perfect this time now. Yes. No. What are you doing? Okay. This is good. Good setup. And then indiscriminate zooming out on a run play when nobody's really pressing the edges. Everything's right here. You can leave it. See what happens. Right? Go for it. See if anybody's going to press the edge. When they do, you can adjust. Good. Good setup to start. Yes. Now this. Oh. Okay. They had it. All right. So this is correct. Zooming out, keeping 22 guys. This is 22 guys. 5 yards, 5 yards. Okay. Top to bottom. Everybody's here. We got guys blocking. I got guys blocking back behind the play. I got this guy getting in this guy's face. Okay. I got this guy who's going to cut this guy off. This guy's a complete decoy trying to draw people away. Probably got the safety to come this direction, or at least look his way before the ball's coming this way. Now he's out of position. Maybe not. But I'm seeing all of this happening because it was filmed correctly. Now, from this point forward, this is a run. Everyone's running this way at the running back. Zooming out would be the wrong thing to do here. Let's see what happens. Ah, zooming out. Okay. Not bad though. Slight. But just right, you can see right about here is right where the zoom should stop. And they just kept going out a little bit farther to keep this guy in the shot. For what? Like for these two guys? I don't see a reason for it, right? Man, that was good though. Okay. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So what I'm seeing is top to bottom. Okay. Receivers top and bottom of the frame. That's good. Okay. You can't really fill in the right and left if the top and bottom are already used up. And then zoom back in. Excellent. Okay. Run recognition all day long. There was nobody running go routes. There was nobody pressing the edges. No routes. Typically, if there is going to be a route, if there is going to be a pass, it's not one guy running routes. It's all of them, right? So you'll see it happen pretty quick. And you can see, like here, you might see these as routes. They're actually blocks on a run play, right? But you might see them looking like routes because that's the design of the play. And that makes sense to zoom out with them just briefly once you realize that this is a run play coming this direction. And you're going to see indicators that that's the case. Obviously, the handoff, right? If you can see that the quarterback handed off the ball, you can see the safety change direction and start running this way instead of this way. And let's see right the point where he does that. Right there. Right there. Okay. So from the point where I see the safety change direction, and maybe that's peripheral vision. I'm just looking at my screen and seeing that, hey, I can see that this guy stopped going backwards. That's enough for me to say that's a run. Right? And again, these guys are not helpful. Let's look at these. Let's focus on this range here. Okay. In doing that, you're going to cut it way down from where you're at. You're going to cut out 35% of what's currently being filmed to show that. But that's an evaluation tool that works for player evaluations, coaching evaluations. Are we running the plays correctly? Are we running the right plays at the right time? Right? That's what they're looking at. And so this is an evaluation tool first and foremost. It's not for entertainment, right? It's for the coaches and players to be able to improve. And so in doing that, the filmers need to improve. And they can do that every single play after play after play. And if they're doing so, they're going to be very good at what they do. All right, so this is a tight formation, very tight defensive formation, right? And let's just see, does everybody spread out and go 1,000 miles in every direction? No, not even close. Everybody's condensing, so zooming out doesn't make any sense. It really, getting tighter and staying in tight makes more sense. All right. Okay. 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 Yep. That works. Okay. Now, as far as learning, okay, now we're zooming back out on the extra point. So the last extra point was really good, or the field goal, the place kicking formation that they had last time was really good, and they left it exactly the way they were. This time they zoomed out for no reason, so that's where there is room to improve. Noticing the right things to do and then repeating them over and over again. All right. Sometimes people don't repeat the right things to do because they don't know when they're doing it. Right? They think they might be doing it every single time, and that's where really evaluating it from this perspective comes into play. All right, so we're past 5 yards here, within 10 yards in both directions. So that's decent. Okay, still 10 yards, still 10 yards. That works. $12:57. The fourth quarter. Okay. Pressing top and bottom really as good as tight as you can get, and still keeping all those guys running routes in the shot. That used to not be the case when I started filming. We were filming on square format video at the time. The TVs were all shaped like that. So once they went widescreen, which the NFL was one of the later people to adopt the widescreen format. The college teams had been doing it for a while. NFL came to it, 2013, I think, when they went to HD. Really wanted to make sure that they had the infrastructure in place before making that switch, because it was a major overhaul for all of their equipment, not just the cameras, but the cameras and the projectors and the film breakdown tools that they've already had. Okay, so here, this is nice and tight. Okay, it's a run, so there's no reason to zoom out. There's nobody really pressing the edge. You've got a 5-yard buffer on both sides. See what happens in that 5 yards. See what happens, right? If nothing happens, then guess what? It's a run. Everybody's nobody's running routes. Everybody's running to make a tackle. So that's where the run recognition comes in, and if you've got 5-yard buffer and nobody ever hits it, then there's obviously no routes to zoom out for. All right, this is decent. That works. I saw all the routes. I saw everything that I needed to on that. I'd love to be able to see more detail on passing deep passing routes, but you just got to zoom out to stay up with it, and that's the game. And it's actually very, very useful for the coaches and the quarterbacks and the receivers and everybody involved, right? Okay. Love that falcon in the middle of the field. It's so cool. No play. It was perfect. It had a perfect setup. This one was going to be good. That's all right, though. We'll get it next time. This next one's going to be perfect. I might be wrong about that. Let me see. So 2/3. Nope, we're centered. Okay. And by doing that, you're going to have, I'm just going to guess, like 11 yards behind the quarterback. 11 yards. So, if you're going to do that, guess what? If people are running routes downfield, you might have an extra 11 yards that you could put behind the safety. And now you've got 11 yards worth of buffer for the safety to fill that space, for the routes to fill that space. Okay, let's see it. Ah. Okay. All right. So, interested to see here. Once they actually come left or right, okay, to cut down that space, which they do, and now the defensive end loops deep, and now he's the farthest person on that side. So now we're within 5 yards here, we're within 5 yards here. Can they maintain that through the entire play? Now we're past 5 yards behind the safety at this point, and now we're past 10. So that's kind of the point where you can recognize where the ball's at, where we're at in the play. Has the quarterback released the ball yet? Yes. Okay. Stopping your zoom and then coming back in. All right. It's decent. Works. 4th and 7. They're going for it on 4th and 7. Trying to get something going here. They have not crossed the end zone, the goal line yet. So let's see what happens. No. Didn't get 7 yards. Okay. Top to bottom. Receivers are really pressing the edges here. Right there. Whew. Man, would have been nice to hit him. Would have been awesome. But, and maybe that's something the coaches look at. Wow, I really kind of feel like we could have hit this on, the deep side. If we could have get a little bit of time for protection for the quarterback and just send the ball up for him. Tried to make a play here. Didn't happen. Okay. Maybe that's the evaluation. Maybe that's the thing that they're looking at. All in all, that was good film. They did a good job with that. All right. $10 yards behind the quarterback. And then moving over to push it to the safety side. Okay. Makes sense. Looks good. That works. I like it. 4th and 8. Field goal. Yep. That's good. No extraneous movements on that at all. All right. Kickoff. Straight pan. I got pan over. No zooming out. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So, yeah, that 2/3 really comes into play, and I don't know if it's psychological, if it's something that just happens that way. If you've got 1/3 of your space is completely empty, right? Most likely the end result of your shot is not going to be real tight, right? Because it's just not. It doesn't make sense for what you're seeing on the field. So then everything you're going to do after that probably isn't going to make sense either. Okay? So it's kind of like if you're starting from the wrong location and then driving, the map perfectly, you're going to end up in the wrong place. Right? So that's kind of where we're at here. Okay. That's 22 guys. And less than 70%. Okay, cut it down. Yep. Okay. So this one's different. Pressing top and bottom. Okay, there's really no zooming in. You can do this here, but if you were set up in this, with the quarterback with 5 yards behind the quarterback, nice and tight, that drop back, you might zoom out a little bit to keep it here. So what is this, the 25-yard line? All right, what if you were at the 25-yard line to start? Right in here. And you see a little bit of this behind the play, and then you see where the pass went. Okay. Right, and then you didn't see the refs, behind the play, just standing there. They're not really doing much. I mean, they do referee type things. I'm sure they're doing something, but not that I can tell. I have no idea. Right? I'm interested in what these guys are doing, right? And the coaches and players are interested in what they're doing on the field, primarily. So, if you were set up here at the 25-yard line and you had to zoom out just a little bit to keep that in, now you've got an extra, 5-10 yards behind the safety. You wouldn't have to move anything, and they could just watch it. Right? Just watch themselves play football, and they can watch their foot movement and what their steps are, and they can see their hand placement as they make that chuck against the guy who's trying to block them, and they can see at one point, could I have tightened this up to get to the quarterback? And they can do that and just watch what happened without the zoom or the pan or the camera stuff getting in the way. Looks good. It's a good looking film. It's a great evaluation tool. Fourth and 4, going again. Okay, maybe they saw something on the film last time. Yeah. Came down to the bottom of the screen. They're like, hey, last time we ran on fourth and 7, that guy was wide open. Throw it to him. Okay. Excellent. Top and bottom were completely filled. Okay. Where are we at here? There's that. There's that. Okay. 85%. It's like a B, right? I guess. It works. Okay. Okay. The good and the bad here. Right there is good. Perfect. Can do that. Okay, and then zooming out from there. So right here we got within 5 yards on both sides. That works for me, right? Balls away. Do we think people are going to continue to run routes any farther than that, or should we start to zoom in? Right? As soon as the ball is released, stop the zooming. Right? You don't necessarily have to make a knee-jerk reaction and start coming back in, but just recognizing it, that there's no reason to continue zooming out at that point. Because if you do, we get into situations like this, where we're coming well out beyond where we need to. Less than 70%. Yeah, that works. Got a first down. Moving the ball. Let's go. Let's go. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. Run to the far side. Don't need to zoom out for that. Run to the far side. Don't need to zoom out. Can zoom in. That works. Special teams. Perfect setup. Leave it. A little bit of a zoom out at the end. I'll pretend I didn't see it. Okay. Onside kick, 34-10. Oh! I thought he had it. Great job, filmer. Staying with that. Onside kicks are chaos. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Here we go. Yes. Nice. I like it. Nice tight setup, and then just watching what's happening. If there's no reason to zoom out with routes, don't need to zoom out. Don't need to zoom out. That works. Got a first down out of it. Moving the ball. Okay. Indiscriminate zooming. No reason for it. No reason to zoom out. It's, late in the game. They're up big. They're obviously going to be running the ball as much as possible to try to run the clock down. Like this, right? These are easy pick and plays. They can just expect that there's going to be a run play after a run play after a run play, and not necessarily that it's going to happen like that exactly every time. You might have to adjust a little bit, but just given the situation on the field, you can expect that it's going to be a run. Here they need 1 yard. 4th and 1. Do they get it? It's close. I gotta say though, some good looking footage. Okay, I was impressed by that. Okay, this is a run. Okay. On a run play, everybody's going to start to run to the ball carrier. So you wouldn't want to zoom out on those. That's it. That's the game. Okay. So, Falcons, ATL, love it. A lot of good things here. Okay, a lot of good things that you can build on, and a lot of things that can improve on. And guess what? You have play after play after play of opportunity to improve on it, and no one is keeping you from. Nobody's in your face trying to stop you, like every other player or coach in football has to deal with, right? Filmer is, they've got wide open opportunity to do it perfectly every time. In this case, I would focus on just staying tight. Tightening up before the play can help, so that you put those players on the edge of the frame, and then the goal is now to keep them on the edge of the frame and adjust accordingly. If they leave that edge and somebody else takes their place, it's much easier to see when they're already there to start. So staying out wide doesn't always help in a lot of instances, because you lose track of how close or how tight you want to be on filming. So out of 144 plays, 120 of them were positive, which is great. That's a score of 83%. There was excellent plays. About 36% of the time were excellent. So a little bit of a bonus there gives you a total of 86.94%. So congratulations to ATL Filmer. Good luck for 2026. Looking for big things from the Dirty Birds for this upcoming season. And looking forward to it. Until then, this is Cameraman Grades.